Greetings and good morning wherever you're watching us from. You're most welcome to this edition of Focus on Parliament, where we look into the happenings, proceedings, and activities at Parliament. We put a spotlight on the same and try to make sense of all happenings at Parliament. You're most welcome to this week's edition of Parliament, and we shall be looking at a number of things that Parliament considered. My name is Chemonges Timothy, and you're most welcome. This week we shall be looking at three major items that House considered. One is on the human rights report that the House adopted, and this report looks into the annual reports of the Human Rights Commission for the last 4 years, starting 2018 to 2021. A number of recommendations were put forth by the committee, and we want to make sense of that. Two, we want to look at the report which equally was adopted by the House, which was presented by Dr. Tusiime, who also serves as the chairperson of the Health Committee, looking into the magnitude of the road accident, traffic injuries, reporting to public hospitals in Uganda, and largely the cost of treatment of the same. And lastly, we shall also be making sense of the directive by the Speaker to the Leader of Opposition to investigate how a report of the COSASE Committee at Parliament looking into the proceedings at the Uganda Airlines, how it leaked, and the consequences of the same in determining the accountability and transparency at the House. You're most welcome, and to have this discussion, I'm joined by a panel of very distinguished guests, whom I welcome and I invite to introduce themselves, starting with my left.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. I'm extremely excited to be part of this show. It's an amazing opportunity to discuss with our communities, with the civic spaces available, to be able to discuss issues that are focusing largely on our governance in this country. My name is Pascal Amuriat. I am a politician. I participated in the recently hot by-election in Soroti City East. And we did what we could, but of course there were challenges in that election. I'm a Uganda People's Congress candidate and member. So maybe since you just said we introduce ourselves, that's briefly who I am in terms of the political participation and the politician. Thank you.
Thank you, Pascal, and you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Timo, I am also profoundly honored to be part of the civic space. And well, it's a pleasure being on the platform once again. My name is Simapolo. I am the Secretary General for the Uganda Parliamentary Press. This is a group of journalists who are accredited to cover Parliament on a daily basis. I wish to state that we are not employees of Parliament, but we are just accredited, to relay the parliamentary proceedings to the public and to all those out who are interested. Thank you so much for hosting me today.
Apollo, thank you so much for always accepting to be part of this show, and you're most welcome. And to you, our viewers out there, you're most welcome, and to be part of this conversation, there's a comment section there that you can put your comment and have this conversation running. On our Twitter handle, you can equally retweet and follow us. For those of us who are following us online, please take a moment to subscribe so that when this show premieres, you are notified. And we delve right into this. This week, House adopted a report of the Committee on Human Rights. This specific report highlights a number of things, and specifically, we want to look at majorly 4 recommendations that the committee put forth and the House adopted. The first is on the recommendation that the lower local government elections be held first before the presidential and the parliamentary elections and the presidential elections. And the other recommendation was on what has been mentioned in the past, that civilians are being tried in military courts, for which court has equally made it unconstitutional. And the committee recommends that this be streamlined, that civilians should not be tried in military courts. Equally, under the journalists who have equally had a bit of an experience, not a very good one, with how their work is conducted, the committee equally puts up a number of recommendations, including that they be given protection and their environment on how they work must be protected. I would want to hear us what we make sense of this report and what sort of contribution you can make towards the way forward on the same. And I'll start with you, Pascal. How do you make sense of this report and the current situation of human rights in the country?
First of all, the current state of human rights in this country. And what I seem to hear the Human Rights Committee recommend is largely on civil and political rights. But there are quite a number of other rights that we expect that the Human Rights Committee should take into consideration. These are around land rights, around the economic, social, cultural rights, and so that our focus is not largely on civil and political rights. But all the same, since you have asked me to give my input in as far as the Human Rights Committee report is concerned, I am going to do so, and I hope I give it a fair and a balanced analysis in my perspective, but also in the ideological formation which I belong to, which is Uganda People's Congress. So I will start with the issues of accountability and transparency. It is a good idea to always report, and I think that the Human Rights Committee delayed with this report because what I seem to see that the reports were for a long period of time, from about 2018 up to 2021. And I think for me, the first thing that comes into my mind is that we must have timely reporting. Because if we have reports that are coming after so many things have happened, and some of these issues are difficult to track and so on, I'd rather that the annual reports are good, but also they should be annual anyway, presented. But secondly, also that where possible, we could have the quarterly reports, so that we are somehow able to track the issues which are coming up. But in terms of the general outlook, preceding this show, I looked at the NRM manifesto and their promise on issues of human rights. And one of the issues that they raise are issues of access to justice, issues of democracy, issues of democracy, access to justice, and issues generally of making sure that the safety of the common man is at really the top. So for me, when I looked at that, so we begin to analyze if the overall outlook or the interest of the government in power is to secure our future by benchmarking these other best practices, you realize that for me, I see that they are fallen short on most of them. When it comes, for example, to the manner in which certain individuals are arrested, in terms of the recent things, people talk about the drone, unlawful arrests, people disappear in places that are not known, ungazetted places. And I think what I hear is, was it yesterday in Parliament, where they said that there are no known safe houses, and so the Human Rights Committee could not determine whether or not they are safe houses. And I'm sure no government on planet Earth would show you that this is a safe house. And for us as individuals, the individuals who have been in safe houses, and if we are to use those accounts of those individuals that have been arrested and taken to such places, I think it would be good to take account of those individuals who are taken to such places. So first of all, we have fallen short in as far as human rights issues are concerned, in terms of especially the civil and political rights. We are operating in a very difficult environment, and I'm sure the civic spaces and other spaces find a little bit of difficulty to operate. So you realize that when it comes to civil and political rights, there is a challenge. The arrests are still going on. I saw yesterday that members of National Unity Platform were in Kenya for a human rights conference and displayed individuals who are victims of human rights abuses and so many other things that you could look into. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. are we on the right track? Is NRM securing our future and the promises that they give in as far as issues of human rights abuses are concerned? I think we have fallen short and we need to improve. We must be honest with ourselves. When it comes to the issue of that goes hand in hand with civilians being tried in military facilities or military courts, so to say. I think for me, that should be a non-negotiable. Is that as long as someone is a civilian and a non-civilian, he should be tried in the formal justice systems, which include, of course, the High Court and so on, whatever, depending on the issue that they are being they're tried for. And to suggest that they should go to military court, for me, I think is unfair. And one of the other promises that the NRM suggests is that it will give you access to justice. Will they get justice in those places? Because, you know, a military high court or a military court is not going to give you the same opportunity to express yourself as much as you would like. And sometimes lawyers can't access you, they can't ask you a few questions. And if we are really looking at access to justice, we must maintain what the law talks about, that all civilians must be tried in other formal courts and not the military. So this one is something that we continue to, I must applaud the Human Rights Committee to further make that recommendation and say, let all civilians be tried in other formal courts. Two, you raise the issue of elections. I have an opportunity to have participated in different elections. I have participated in local government election in Soroti City. I have also participated at member of parliament level. And I hear them when they say, because I have participated in both elections, I hear them when they say that can we have these elections either before, a period before, so that the local government is fixed before the presidential and parliamentary. And I think for me, the cure that they are trying to address is really the low voter turnout. By the time you finish member of parliament and presidential election, the voter apathy, the voter turnout really goes low, that, you know, as local council candidates, you find yourself shouldering the burden of, for example, making sure that people are going to the polling stations to be able to vote. Sometimes the vote turnout is so low, it drops. If the general one is 50, this one comes to about like 30 to 25%, sometimes even 20% of the election. And so when they speak about the issue of elections, I think for me, while I agree that should be before, for me I was thinking that we should go into a culture of having a specific voting time. And even if it is 1 week, that from the president is voted, the member of parliament is voted, the local council 5 is voted. And we need to go through a process, a credible process. Because what are we trying to do? To guarantee a fair outcome for everybody. So that one person is not voted by only a few. Because we need to look at the principle of democracy that is supposed to be inclusive and participatory. So if we lose that participation, increased participation, we then endanger the kind of leaders, the category of leaders who should be able to govern at local council, who should inform at national. So I seem to suggest that while it is true before, it's good, but on my part, I would think that they should be voted same day.
But you know, progressively there has been voter apathy.
Exactly.
And that can be attributed to many reasons, including probably the trust of the process.
Yeah, while that is true, but let everybody be given fair opportunity. You know, when they are voting members of parliament and presidential candidates, it's a public holiday. And individuals who would like to vote local council members or leaders don't have that opportunity, because anyway they must get back to their workplaces. Unless we say that the principle is the same. Every day there's an election day, it must be a public holiday. And you know, we'll have so many public holidays, which for me is dangerous. But I rather that we go through a process. Let it be like a Christmas season, where everybody knows it is now Easter season, it is Christmas season. Let us all go and participate in a process which determines our future. Otherwise, if you schedule it and it looks like you're discriminating, you're giving others more priority and others. I rather that in principle of equality and everybody given access, let it be on the same day, even if you vote for 2 days, but within the same period without announcing. So there are those recommendations which for me, I agree with them, that we need to look for a way of putting them together, and also look for a issue of civilians. Okay, but generally speaking to the issues of other promises that were given in the NRM manifesto. You know, I always like to track someone based on their words. They tell that cattle rustling has reduced. We are in charge from corner to corner. And what I seem to see now, I come from a region which neighbors Karamoja, and I'm sure many others do. The amount of cattle rustling in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months has increased. And I think we need to be honest that we need to, up to now, just 2, 3 days ago, you find that there's increased cattle rustling. What this means is that it doesn't secure the future of those individuals. But since we are talking about human rights abuses and the promises that they gave, cattle rustling has increased. This one is clear. Issues of insecurity in Karamoja and other pockets of insecurity. I have had a few attacks on a few, is it Busika police post? And there are so many other attacks. Yesterday I was watching on the news and that indicated that some individuals had entered into Lamo from South Sudan and they had also attacked a few people and picked up, bundled up a few people. So we need to rethink and reevaluate that, are we on track? What the government has promised, is it what is happening on the ground? And that's why it is good to have quarterly reports. Because now we are discussing issues, for example, the issues that were in Kenya yesterday were issues of November, and it's about 1 year, and there is no report. I think the mentality of us as a country to have timely reporting. We must report to the relevant places and some people can have a justice, because you can't say you're going to access justice when, for example, there are so many killings and so on, and no reports. What do you think that the families of these individuals feel like? So for me, I agree that it is good to present a report, but I must insist that the Human Rights Committee needs to do this on a timely basis. They need to do it with honesty. They need to point out the issues so that the officers, the responsible persons, because human rights is for all. These are non-negotiable. It shouldn't be that we are negotiating because someone has done a wrong. And this is where I also agree with, recently I had Dr. Kiza Besigye say that, you know, the international community is not taking action that they should take. Because, you know, where are the human rights abuses? Everybody should be interested, even myself and you. If, for example, you see that someone is beating a child to a level which is not acceptable, beating a wife or whatever and wanting to kill them, you don't need an invitation to go and stop them. You don't need to be invited to say that, now, no, you stop. All you do is first intervene in the matter, make sure that life is saved and the rest can be sorted. But why did you come to my compound? But I wanted to stop you, you were killing her. Those will be now other discussions. So I think for me, I invite all human rights persons, all human rights defenders across the globe, that where there are human rights abuses, which they have been reported, largely for them they are civil and political. While I also agree that there are those economic, social, cultural rights that we must also take care of. So on my part, I applaud them for making a report, but for me those are the key issues that I would want to know. Time is long overdue and I'm disappointed to that. The recommendations that they make, yes, we agree with some of them, but we need to go deeper to understand, for example, in terms of elections, why is there a recommendation that local council elections should happen before? The issues that, like arrest voter apathy, the issues for which we are looking at, can we have a process which allows and benchmark other countries? In the last Kenyan election, I think all senators and governors were voted on the same day similarly. The same day that they were voting the Kenyan president. Senators, governors were also voted the same day. The simple reason is that so that the critical leadership is voted, given the same opportunity to be able to be voted. Otherwise, this is where issues now come. For example, if I'm a member of parliament and I have won, then I'm going to make sure that all those councillors whom I don't want to come, I will work against them. And we are trying to avoid these sort of things. That because you belong to some member of parliament, this is a reality because I participated. If you lose, your councillors have like a 90% chance of losing, because then they will bring the entire force to be able to fight you. I even imagine if you had voted the president alone, the president would come and say, okay, these members of parliament are the ones that I want. This is why voting on the same day gives everybody equal access, equal opportunity. And I come from a political formation which really believes in terms of equal opportunity, in terms of providing equal rights, so that everybody is is sort of included in the process. Otherwise, if we do not, there will be challenges. And just like you talk about the reporting, I'll be moving back and forth in terms of reporting. What I heard from the Speaker of Parliament yesterday was that she had the House because there was no progress report from most ministries.
The action reports.
There were no, I want to call them progress or action reports. And for me, I'm asking, how come for about, this was from May last year, it's 1 year and about 6 months, 1 year and a half, and there are no progress reports? Is it a cultural issue? Is it in our DNA that we don't want to report? And this is why I see the Human Rights Committee also taking long. Is it in our DNA that we don't want to be accountable? Is it in our DNA that we don't want to give information and track progress? Because for me as a citizen, I am interested in progress. If the progress says now, we borrowed this amount of money, how did you use it? Let us assume that, okay, so we would construct a road. What is the progress of the road? We want to know that. Maybe we are at 70%. Okay, even if you tell us, we borrowed this money, the money came late, we are still contracting. It's okay. We just want to know that there is a process. And because we don't have a culture of ensuring that we give people information and updating them continuously, because it's a participatory process. Otherwise, I see the speaker getting frustrated and saying, look, I need these progress reports. I need these action reports. And I could see in her face that nobody is giving Parliament an opportunity to do their oversight. Because anyway, if you do not give them that opportunity, how will they know whatever they are passing in line? So I seem to agree with the speaker in as far as tracking progress is concerned. And for many NGO and company people, you know that progress sometimes is tracked on a daily basis. I've been in entities whereby you're tracked on a daily basis. What are you going to do today? And what is the outcome of today? Give me your daily report. People report on a daily basis. And for me, this could be issues for us to look at in terms of increased reporting and accountability, as long as we don't have these reports. Be it in human rights, be it in education, be it in what. The country, the citizens need to know how far are we moved. But if we only wait for the State of Nation address, and then you give us a big overview, we may not be able to track like spot on. I think for me the interest is that if you're saying this, we solve the problem immediately before it gets, we're able to do the monitoring and evaluation.
And we'll come back to the action report just shortly after this discussion. Apollo, the fourth estate, which largely comprises of journalists, is a noble profession, and progressively it has been under a very big threat, especially on the attack of reporting what is truthful, what is informative to the public, and all the responsibilities that journalists are charged with. Looking at the committee report, what sense do you make out of this and the recommendations which they make forth?
Yeah, I must applaud the committee on human rights and Parliament as a whole for adopting and working on a report and bringing out these recommendations. I'm well excited that this time around, in the recommendations, the journalists and the rights of journalists and the press has been also included in the recommendations. But while my colleague is disappointed with the committee for taking long to present this report, I have to also put it to him and everyone that, we will all wait to see what the response will be as far as the recommendations are concerned. Because, for instance, we have seen many recommendations being made as far as protection of human rights of Ugandans are concerned. But what has been the response from the state or the purported abusers of these human rights? Almost nothing. I had an opportunity in 2019 to travel with the Human Rights Committee to several places where they had pinpointed that these were safe houses in Narukorongo and elsewhere. What happened that day? The committee chair, Honorable Gunyo Nantume, and a host of other committee members and we journalists were stopped at the gate, and they were not allowed to access those places. And what happened later? Nothing. But you remember, and me, and you know, that committees of parliament have powers. I mean, according to the rules and the administration of parliament, they have powers of a high court. But these were blocked, and not only the Human Rights Committee. The time during when the investigation about the probe into the Lubowa hospital, you remember what happened when the whole minister and members of parliament were blocked to access the site at Lubowa, the site for Lubowa hospital. So I am, like I said, we can only wait to see what the response to these recommendations can be. But to me, I think nothing much will come from the other side, much as the recommendations are good. But again, we should also acknowledge that the recommendations themselves have been made before. They are not new. Talk about the issue of civilians being tried in military courts. That has been talked about before, has been part of the public discourse. Civil society organizations, even the public has come out to say that this is irregular. You cannot try civilians in military courts. Like my colleague said, you expect that a civilian standing in a military court will not really feel as safe as he would be in a civil court. So what has been done after all these recommendations that have been tabled either in parliament or made by parliament? I will take you to a recent recommendation when parliament actually made a resolution that the Vinci coffee deal should be cancelled. Down the road now, it's coming to more than close to 6-7 months. What has been done? We haven't. So I'm saying, well, the recommendations are good, but me, I don't think and I don't expect anything different from what has been coming from the other side. Possibly, what we can say, we cannot stop. We must encourage the committees of parliament, civil society organizations, and all the stakeholders to keep pushing. But all in all, I don't think nothing different will come from the state.
Apollo, thank you. And you raised a number of points there. If you followed the proceedings of parliament this week, the speaker had set aside Thursday to be a day for the executive to update the House on the actions taken on all the recommendations and the guidance of the House, to what extent they have gone to implement. And listening to the speaker, the expectation was not that you must have done it. We want an update. We've not done because of A, B, C, D. We've done this, or this is where we are. Don't you think that this is also one of the accountability measures in which Parliament is putting in place to ensure that its recommendations are effective?
Timothy, it is indeed a forum for accountability, but it all again goes down to the will. Is government ready to accommodate those recommendations at this point in time? My colleague talked about the recommendation that possibly the local council elections should be held before the presidential elections. Yes, like he said, the essence possibly would be to get all the people who vote during, the numbers who vote during this day of where we vote the president to also participate. and a matter of voter apathy. But again, if we do not again look at the reason why the people do not go out to vote, the mistrust in the system, if you do not address the mistrust in the electoral system, then even if you change, even if you change the you put it on the same day or you change the date, then I think it won't make a difference. We have to address the salient issues, why people do not, why there are disparities in numbers of people who go to vote on particular positions, and then that's when we can get everybody on board to participate in any electoral process.
Just keeping forward with you, Apollo, and it's good that you mentioned that you were part of the Human Rights Committee's visits to some of these places. I think not all, but part. And the committee, I think the committee chair says that they did not find or locate any safe house. I think a couple of years back, the general, the late General
Eri Tumwine,
may soul rest in peace, he had confirmed to the country that there were safe houses and any other country has them. What's your take and what's your position in the same?
Well, like I said, we traveled to those places which were suspected to be safe houses, but they were guarded by men in uniform. We were blocked on the gate. But later, you remember, there was a lot of pressure. Actually, there was also pressure to censure the security minister then, General Eri Tumwine. And then that's when he came to the Human Rights Committee of Parliament. I covered also those proceedings. And he testified that he said that indeed government has safe houses, but he sarcastically said that these safe houses are there for the good of the citizens, that we take their people who we think are going to be or maybe hurt if they are in the public. We take them there to keep them safe. That's why possibly they are called safe houses. But indeed, we know that people who go to safe houses are not threatened by the public. But when they go there, actually, that's when they do what? They get their life is threatened or their liberties are threatened. Well, I think the Human Rights Committee should keep pressing on, keep bringing out these issues, and even us, we should keep demanding for our rights, because these are it's not a favor for me to exercise my right. It's not a favor. Some of these rights are God given. So we keep pushing, and possibly this time.
There is something which is a little bit ironical for me. What is termed as a safe house are places where people's rights are curtailed, but also are places where people are tortured.
Yeah.
And already for us to say even that it's a safe house, it's a safe place, then who doesn't want safe places in this country? We should be then saying, take us to safe places as citizens. So the irony in itself, calling it a safe house.
Maybe the name should change.
It should change because it doesn't serve that purpose. Because if you are really taken to a safe house, then you'd move in dignity and everybody would want to know where you are and come and visit you possibly, and there are so many amenities that you enjoy. And I don't like the element of hypocrisy and pretense when it comes to such critical matters. I think for me, we need to be honest about what is happening in the country, and we need to tell the correct, the truth, tell the truth. In the National Transitional Justice Policy, talk about truth telling. We must be honest and tell the truth. I am actually happy that the late General, may his soul rest in peace, spoke again with honesty. And unfortunately, the Human Rights Committee was not able to locate where those places are. But I'm sure that if further investigation is done, there are some individuals who may know. I'm not saying they know. But we need to be honest. We need to dismantle these places. I don't think in the 21st century we should be having safe houses. For me, I think we should, if there are any safe houses, and I know that there are places of detention which are not gazetted, we must dismantle all of them, and whoever has committed the crime either goes to the designated police place of detention, or prisons if they are going to be taken there for some time before trial, or as convicts, or should be taken in a place which is already provided for legally.
The most interesting part is that they are seeing this report didn't have a minority report, and the Committee of Human Rights has both members of all what it called shades, and it only means then that they agree to what the findings of the committee is concerned.
You see, so sometimes
where does that place?
For me, where does it place the differing opinions?
Yeah,
because within the Human Rights Committee, I'm sure that the individuals who have defined opinion, and it is then incumbent upon those individuals to provide a minority report. And if they have not done it, there are certainly reasons why they have not provided the minority report. Maybe they will provide it after.
No. So this is how, especially for committees. Once the committee is done with the investigation or looking into a matter, they come up with a report.
That's true.
If there are members who have dissenting voice,
that's true.
They write a minority report.
Now,
but you see, Timothy.
But you see, the reason probably I'm just asking myself, why did they write the report? You know, human rights issues are hot issues. We are having some members of parliament in custody, again on seemingly other human rights related issues. And I pray that the defenders in parliament, the human rights defenders, are not themselves at risk. That should you raise issues which are contrary in as far as human rights issues are concerned, I'm going to say, okay, you can write your report, but we define internally. For me as an individual out here, I imagine that the report that there are no safe houses is somewhat misleading, because I have some individuals whom I know who reported that they were in safe houses. Some of them are in the communities. And if you say that there are no safe houses, so where were these people kept? We need to be honest. Again, for me, it's about honesty. And if the report suggests because they did not see anyway, like my brother was saying, it's an equivalent of a high court. It's again, evidence-based. If it is true possibly that they went to look for the safe houses and never found them, but based on the information that the late minister gave us, can that be a starting place? That could be a starting place in terms of this.
I am not surprised that there are no minority. There isn't a minority report besides the report of the committee, because usually the minority report comes when the committee is dealing with a matter that divides the committees.
Exactly.
Yeah, the committees the opinions of committee members. But now on this matter of human rights, you cannot. I don't think the committee can be divided with people saying human rights are not abused in this country, when actually annual reports, even those compiled by global entities,
Human Rights Commission
and even the Uganda Human Rights Commission also acknowledges that there are human rights violations in this country. So I think, like, the recommendations have been outlined. Do this on this. Do this on this. It shows that they agree on these recommendations, and they did not dissent on matters of whether human rights are being abused or violated or not.
So, Apollo, during the debate, the Honorable Baga Dwata raised the matter that, and actually she was raising a matter over what the Attorney General presented before the International Committee on Torture.
Exactly.
If I'm right. And the committee, the Attorney General made it clear that there were no safe houses here as it had been alleged. So the Speaker asks the member, did you write a minority report? And that, at least for the safe houses, is a matter that even the leader of opposition said, no, this is not the position. And upon being asked, why didn't you come up with a minority report? There was no clear answer on the same. So whereas there could be a unanimous agreement that human rights are
Violated.
violated, especially for these salient features. I thought maybe there could have been, because they are divergent.
Yeah, certainly the point of dissent is really whether there are no safe houses or they are. And I'm also wondering why some members of parliament in the opposition who had dissenting voices did not write a report to suggest that, you know, on this particular area we do not agree with this. And for me it's a bit disappointing, because we are dealing with a situation which we must be honest, again I like talking about it, but also a situation which we must deal with as a country. And if the Attorney General has gone to the international community to indicate that everything is bad, everything is good. And that we are operating in a situation where human rights are at its best, or that there are no incidences that suggest that we are ranked so bad in as far as human rights abuses are concerned. For me, if I were that Attorney General, I would speak the same, because then I'm speaking on the side of government. But we need again to be honest in as far as reporting is concerned. And I think this way I fault again some members of parliament, that in such matters, we must always have a culture of reporting what you have got and what you believe is in you. If you take the biblical context of when they sent some spies to Ghanaians, find out whether or not those lands were safe for the children of Israel to take up, we realized that there were two reports. One said that these people are too big, that they will eat us in just a minute. The other said, no, we will conquer them. So it is good to always have a report what exactly you have found out and what you believe in. So otherwise, it's disappointing. I'm sorry to use that word, that there was no minority report.
Well, he may say it is disappointing, but what I think is disappointing is the Attorney General stating that there are no safe houses, when actually, like I told you, that the former Minister of Security on the floor of Parliament, because the Committee of Parliament is part of parliamentary proceedings, testified that there are safe houses, but the MPs are not allowed to do what? To access them for their reasons. And on the side of we, the journalists, I don't know if anyone, Timothy, if you can remember that picture of Akena, the Reuters journalist, being assaulted by 3 soldiers, all armed with rifles and canes, caning him seriously. And then you say, no, it is okay. It is okay here. The journalists who have been tortured and still have, even today, they have lifetime wounds. Our colleague who was working with WBS, who was assaulted by the DPC for Kampala, remember him, and several other Ugandans who have been taken through hell and their rights blatantly violated. And then you say it's okay. And like he said, possibly because his position is the Attorney General, possibly he could speak so. He could make such a statement. But we are Ugandans. We are here. We have experienced this violation, right? I mean, firsthand. We have been caned. We have been brutalized during our course of duty as journalists. And like I said, some have endured, but again, others have actually quit the profession just because maybe they can no longer endure this. And me, I would be disappointed with anyone standing on any fora, let it be the floor of Parliament or any other fora, and say there are no human rights violations in this country.
Actually, I think on that, one of the leader of opposition, Mathias Mpuga, requested the Speaker that Attorney General presents the same report that he presented at the committee, at the UN International Committee on Torture, on the floor of Parliament, so that it gives probably Ugandans a sense of what he was saying. And the Speaker allowed and said that we'll have him present the report. So we wait to see if the report will be submitted and what will be
and
reactions
discuss.
of
we
the
need to
same.
discuss it as a country. That's true.
Yeah, so but just since because Apollo says that these matters have been raised over
time.
and over and over, and and looking at the 11th Parliament, there seems to be a move to ensure that some of these resolutions, some of these actions which the actions which the Parliament is putting forward are implemented. I just want to hear, so what would be like the best way forward as far as these matters are concerned?
I think for me, Parliament as a body is there to do oversight and to do the principle of checking power, balances and checking power. Parliament is doing its role by putting the government cabinet side on the spotlight to be able to tell us that we gave you these recommendations. What so far have you done? And if you have done nothing, we should also know that you have failed to implement the things that we asked you to implement. But also, if there are those individuals in cabinet who perpetually cannot report and who have not taken any action steps, it could also mean that the mandate that they have been given by the power of the constitution, their mandate could be removed from them by way of censure. And you know, we have had a history in this country where some members of cabinet have been censored and taken out of action. And this is the kind of action that I would want the 11th Parliament to take, that we must take action. There must be a culture of taking action and to respect the arm of government, which is Parliament, that when we make these recommendations, you must act on them.
Yeah.
And if we allow this to continue, this is why I agree with the Speaker. When he said that I need reports, I cannot progress. We cannot go ahead. We cannot keep sitting here for so many months and so many years, suggesting that you are not acting on anything. And yet we want to track progress. For example, when the issue of, like for example, the civilians being tried in the military court, we want to see that what action have you taken on that? Are there individuals who are civilians who have been tried in a military court? And can they be transferred to a civil court? And for me, these are all issues for which Parliament is asking, that tell us, on this one, what did you do? When it comes to, this is just an example of in as far as human rights is concerned, in as far as electoral reforms are concerned, what have you done with the electoral reforms? So that we are able to know that we agreed that these electoral reforms should be A, B, C, D. What have you done on them? So that we move. That's why I like the idea of ministry by ministry. When it comes to the education ministry, what steps are you taking in as far as the UPE program is concerned?
Actually, looking at that, the progress and action reports which are being suggested, they are going to be ministry by ministry. But we'll come back to this just shortly after the break. And to our viewers, thank you so much for keeping with us. We take a short break and we'll be coming back. Thank you so much.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Thank you for staying with us, our viewers, and we do appreciate for your time and for always allowing to be part of this conversation. To be part of this conversation, please leave a comment and contribute in our Twitter handles. We are very much live available. Subscribe to our YouTube so that when this premieres, you can always be notified. And we are concluding on the discussion on the human rights which we had posed. And I just want to hear the final remarks really on this specific matter from our guests.
For me, like I was still making a submission preceding our commercial break, that the issue of accountability ministry by ministry, so that we are able to track progress, that the recommendations like we're talking about from the Human Rights Committee, are we really taking them serious? So that we can also put the ruling government on the spotlight. That this is what you promised us in as far as human rights issues are concerned. Are you saying that you don't mean what you say in your manifesto? So that we as citizens are able to watch what is happening and see that you are actually making efforts. Less of that. If we do not have the habit of tracking progress, which you're saying action reports, then I'm afraid that for me this is where, if we don't track progress, then we are not checking any government arm. And that means Parliament must be given opportunity to check the executive. And if this is an opportunity, let it be so. And if we fail, then we also know that the challenges of Parliament, and we see what to do next. But for me, why I'm interested in Parliament is because Parliament is a repository of the people's will. All our will, who are not in Parliament, is that this is where we have representation and our views and whatever can be heard. So less of that, I think we will not be able to make progress. I think for me that's a good one. We could continue tracking progress, and I'm again waiting for responses from government as quickly. I think what my interest is timely and expeditious response, not to wait for another 1 year and then respond. I expect an expeditious, give it priority. Issues of human rights are critical issues; they must be given priority, and the ministers concerned in implementing this, because there are different ministries then, because of the issues that come up, different ministries then can handle. Like the one in charge of election, the one in charge of the judiciary on issues of civilians and so on. So each ministry then could issues of media. There's what does the issue, because it cuts across arrests and so on, but also on media freedoms, because there are so many issues of media freedoms that we are having now, including the recent Computer Misuse Act. And as we are even here, some people can construe that we are misusing the issues of access to these spaces. And these are issues for which we must honestly have a discussion.
Thank you. Apollo, you may want to give your insight on this.
Yes, while we appreciate the House for coming up with brilliant recommendations, I think the onus is again on the House to understand its position and its mandate, and again its power to check the other arms, especially the executive. We know that Parliament, according to our Constitution, has powers to censure even the President. But when was the last time that Parliament censured the ministers? I think that's the time of Honorable Kutesa and others, very many years ago. The recent attempts to censure the Security Minister, the late General Tusiime, the whole plan fell flat, and that is why I am still so unsure whether anything good will come out after those recommendations have been made, because during the committee proceedings, especially on this issue of human rights, which you will see all members from both sides saying and agreeing that indeed human rights are very critical matters and they should be respected. But in the end, when, for instance, a censure motion is being floated in the House, then finally you don't even see people appending their signatures on that censure, on the censure motion. Then you ask yourself, what has happened now? You've been making a lot of noise either on radios or anywhere. I'm sorry using that word noise, but you've shown that you're really in support of protection of freedoms and rights of people. But when it comes to that time when the public wants to see you stand on your feet and then do something like you're talking about action. When the time for action comes, then there are no signatures. The MPs actually will find excuses. Some others will fly out of the country. You remember what happened just in the recent attempt to change General L to win. The numbers did not tally. I mean, could not be raised. So I think Parliament should understand its powers and exercise those powers if they are really serious about what they are saying.
Thank you, Apollo. And I think to our viewers, even as we discuss this, you can contribute in our comment section and put what your thoughts are. And now we look into the other topic, which the House equally considered, and they adopted a report, which was presented by Honorable the chairperson of the Health Committee,
Dr. Francis Ayume.
The report was on the magnitude of the road traffic injuries, which are being reported to the public hospitals in Uganda, and looking into the cost of treatment. The report highlights a number of things, and it gives a comparative the increase in terms of some of these crashes, the road accidents, injuries that are being reported in public. In 1990, the road injuries and crashes was number 9 in the list of the causes of death globally. As of 2020, it is now number 3, and I'm sure that we must have seen the videos which are circulating, which have been produced in terms of the borders, but also generally motor vehicles. You will notice that the report equally highlights the increasing accidents progressively in Uganda. Actually, if 2018, the report highlights that there were over 5,000 cases of motorcycle accidents. By 2020, they had reached 9,000. By 2021, now they are over 11,000, which tells you of where we are heading. It seems to be a very big challenge, and really our road sector may be the other pandemic that probably we are foreseeing. We would want to hear your views and your thoughts on this. Starting with you, Pascal.
Okay. First of all, I must thank the Honorable Dr. Ayume for making such a presentation and a report to Parliament, indicating that, look, as much as we are considering other factors when it comes to the what is killing our citizens, and you see, it suggests that, look, the issue of road safety, road accidents. I want to be specific. I hope he means that it is road accidents, because there are many ways of transport. But looks like the road accidents, road transport is the most risky form of transport, yet also the most available and most used, and where government has put in more money when it comes to in terms of transport. You rarely hear cases, of course, of air accidents. You rarely hear issues of water accidents, and now our rail, of course, is almost non-existent, but it is somehow there because it's cargo and just a few movements in Kampala and to and fro Namamve. So what I seem to hear is that we as a country should be concerned about road accidents and the magnitude with which it is growing, and the magnitude within and the issues for which we must respond. What is our response mechanism? And this is like, we need to discuss it in as far as a comprehensive approach is concerned. And I'm waiting for government to be able to respond comprehensively when it comes to the issues of road safety, but also issues of health, which these ministries seem to have similar challenges. One is, of course, the Ministry of Works and Transport is in charge of the roads, but also there are issues of accidents which are taken to the ministry in charge of Ministry of Health. What I hear from Dr. Ime that we must take charge. And from my calculation, it seems to indicate that sometimes 50 to 100 people die on a daily basis.
Actually,
if you do a computation with the increase, you're saying
today, as of 2021, the reports which are the accidents are especially for the motorbikes, motorcycles. At least on an average, they are reported 499.
Yeah, that's even a higher figure. So if we are having, for example, 500 motorcycle accidents and maybe other vehicle accidents as well, you realize that we have about close to 1,000. And of those 1,000, if we just put a fraction of 10% dying or even more, we have about 100 people perishing in as far as using different modes of transport is concerned. And for me, this is a great concern. This appears to be a serious issue than the attack we have on COVID and Ebola, because it is consuming more lives. People, those that are survive, get permanently probably disabled, and they're not able to proceed with different kind of works that they're doing. For me, fast forward, it is a challenge and we must recognize it and expect that the relevant ministries, of course, said that they will report. We pray that they bring in the report quickly. But I would want to look at it in a bigger perspective. That the nature of our roads, the road designs that we have in this country, are designs which are not cognizant of certain specific safety issues when it comes to those that providing for pedestrians, providing for cyclists, motorcyclists, providing for people with disabilities. And you see, if we are not critical about the kind of designs that we have in our roads, let's just take an example of these highways that we have. Kampala to Jinja. It's one of the most busiest highways because it pushes us to the trade route to Mombasa. And if you look at just that highway alone and the number of accidents and challenges which are there, and the road design that we should be having on that route, it is something that I expect the Ministry of Works to quickly look into it and ensure that the subsequent road designs are road designs which take care of all this kind of people, that road users that are there. But also we need to take care of issues of corruption. I'm serious when it comes to issues of corruption in the road sector, because you can see the impact which it has. If a road is meant to have 4 lanes and then you only see 2 lanes, someone has eaten the 2 lanes, and people seem to take it for granted. These are realities for which we are discussing. So while it is true that there are issues of road designs, there are issues of infrastructure developments that should prevent.
They don't only eat lanes, they also eat layers.
So they can eat lanes, they can eat layers. So if, for example, like you said, just eat 1 layer, and how deep and whatever, and people sometimes inflate the amount of money on certain roads. I think someone suggested the express highway was one of the most expensive roads globally, one of the most expensive. There are so many other roads. If you look at the cost, some of these USMID roads, like in Soroti City, one of them costed about, a 2-kilometer road costed about 17 billion. And you ask yourself, 17 point something billion on just a 2.5-kilometer road. Is it even if you say you're putting lights along it and whatever, there's surely no value for money. So the challenge that is increasing this death is also because the officers who are responsible in as far as handling the infrastructure development is concerned, there is a lot of corruption in these sectors. And because these sectors are sectors that sometimes people underlook, they don't seem to focus on it because there are huge contracts and maybe the heavyweights are there and you cannot touch them. For me, we need to look deeper. This way, I don't want to look at just the report that the road accidents have increased, the motorcyclists. Of course, I've seen the recent action that has forced the motorcycle riders to have a reflector jacket and I think a road license or something, and a helmet, which is okay in part, but also it has introduced the number of accidents. I've also seen counterfeit reflector jackets. And we also need to discuss the issues of quality.
Yeah.
We are saying put on a reflector jacket. There are jackets you really see. This one is not a reflector jacket.
True.
But because anyway, it's a requirement for me to put on something which resembles a semblance of a reflector jacket. You seem to suggest that it's okay, just put on anything. We need to be honest about the interventions that we are doing to protect our citizens. And if the road design is one area that you must look into, we need to be honest about it. That also informs, of course, issues of land rights then. That, okay, you want to widen the road network. Are you compensating the individuals that are near the road? Because in Uganda, we seem to have a culture of building near the road. And because people believe that the road...
No, for obvious reasons. You want to...
People want to
be closer to development.
To development, but people want to move, again, very close to the roadside. And nobody wants, for example, there are few people who want to use the markets. Because a customer can easily access, drive, and speak something and go. And you know, there are market opportunities which come with being along the roadside. But also, if you're looking at the road designs, issues certainly of land rights will come in. And if you're saying, okay, we are taking this road, how much is it? How much compensation there is? Again, it comes back to the corruption issue. So, for me, we need to deal with it. It's an animal that we must deal with. We must be dealing with these road designs so that we are sure that people are safe, so nobody should die because they are going to work. If it should happen, it should be like a breaking news. It happens once in a blue moon. So that somehow we are sure of the safety of our people. When the children are going to school, you are going to school, or you are going to work, you should be safe. And for example, what I see in Kampala, there's so many vehicles and there's so many motorcycles, and the jam that is there, and the people are in a hurry. And you see that some individuals who are powerful want to pass where it's almost impossible because they're in a hurry. So there are so many vehicles. We with sirens, everybody's in a hurry. It's okay. Nobody is not in a hurry. But the issue is, can you create an environment, road designs, so that whether you are coming with your siren, we also know how to get there quickly, and we don't have to struggle and you see this nonsense which is in Kampala and maybe other parts of the country, that the people who are our servants, who are our leaders, instead of being patient and waiting, queue in the attitude of humility, they seem to be in a hurry, and through these kind of maneuvers, and the borders are also in a hurry, there are challenges really of you can't fail to have accidents.
That's true.
I also use borders in Kampala. It's a risky thing to do, but somehow people are risking because they are nobody's providing alternatives.
That's true.
If you don't provide alternatives, we all want to get to work early. We want to get to places of business early. And so you can't hold us ransom and say that we want now to wipe away borders. Can you create a road network, a railway system? Can we have flyovers? I know it comes, of course, at a cost, but even if it comes at a cost, but when the amount of time we spend, for example, to go to work, if, for example, you're coming from Boyogerere and it's about 8, you will reach Kampala after 2.5 hours. So if you are losing 2.5 hours to access where you are going to, in terms of earning and the revenue that government misses because of those delays, it has a direct impact on the economic situation. So for me, that's the starting point. But also the last part, apart from the road designs and road safety and issues for which you must go into, the issues of the quality of healthcare system along these highways. If you're in Lugazi, I think one of the most common hospitals is that Kawolo or something? Kawolo. And then there are hotspots there for so many years. I travel in the east home because it's my ancestral home, and it is seemingly like the hospital which is available, but the hospital is not. The orthopedic department is not, because what happens when someone gets an accident? The issues of bones come in, and the issues of this other wounds and casualty comes in. And if we have a weak orthopedic department, which I think globally, it's not globally, but in Uganda, that we don't pay attention to issues of orthopedia. And
I think the healthcare is also another area that, especially provisions for emergency services.
So, for example, if you have an accident, the turnaround time, how much time do you take to take someone to a hospital and give them immediate care and care? And I'm telling you, when General Katumba Wamala was attacked, you would see this on videos, that it took a motorcycle rider to be able to
To
take him, to rescue him. Now, but again, you ask, where are the health systems that can allow you to be able to move? This is why I respect ambulances. When I see them, I move aside. Because we need to develop a culture that a quick response. In other parts of the world, I think it's 3 minutes. You make a call in 3 minutes, the ambulance has arrived. That's the turnaround time globally. So I think we need to invest also a lot more in roads, in healthcare, especially along the highways. If we could just have 2-3 ambulances, instead of MPs buying ambulances for their constituencies, it could be a direct action to show, okay, I think there's need for ambulances. Why are they buying them? People need them. And if we need them, make it a national process so that you don't burden a member of parliament to buy ambulances. These are issues for which we must continue the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you raised a very pertinent matter. So, Apollo, you've covered as a journalist, you've been in the streets and you've covered the aspects of road safety largely. And the police indicate that the leading cause of accidents in our road is reckless driving. Otherwise, I think they also refer to it as human error. And you looking at the reports, they actually find that the cases of accidents are increasing. Actually, as of 2021, the cases that were reported were 33,208 cases, road crashes annually. But also, there's a sense in which other people are raising concern that the number of motor vehicles have increased, but the infrastructure has remained the same. What's your position on this?
Well, on matters of road safety, you pinpointed the cause of these road fatalities and road carnage to reckless driving. But reckless driving is also could also could also have other factors that leads to such. For instance, I would also wish to draw your attention to some reports like 14 million Ugandans have mental disorders. Last week we were discussing here the issue of Uganda being one of the top consumers of alcohol. And my colleague Pascal also talked about corruption. Really, imagine those three joined together, and you are surprised that people are dying on our roads? I don't think so. In a country where vehicles as old as 15 years are allowed to operate and actually carry passengers, and you are surprised that the death, actually cases of death are increasing? I don't think so. We have documented several reports of corruption, and not this corruption my colleague talked about of people eating some layers of roads. But imagine we have policemen, traffic policemen on the road, but a DMC easily passes and they let it go, carrying 14 or 50 people. And then you don't expect that an accident will happen soon.
Maybe just to give you my experience, just hold on. The taxis in Kampala, I have noticed of recent that these are dangerous mechanical condition. They are DMCs. I don't seem to see new people buying taxis. I don't know why. Is there a challenge? Because I've not boarded a new taxi since I came to Kampala for 1 week, and I have not boarded a new one. And I'm asking myself, is this a new normal in Kampala? You can just proceed.
So I was saying it's a combination of factors, and there are very many. If you want to deal with corruption, it is huge. It starts from enforcement, because let me tell you about what my brother also alluded to. The ongoing operations on borders, putting on reflector jackets. But you would ask yourself, why are they now putting on reflector jackets? Why until now, they are putting on, all riders you see are putting on reflector jackets? what has been absent, what is new about this operation. And again, I will tell you that even if now we can see them putting on those reflector jackets and somehow others putting on helmets, how long will this take? I'm telling you, after Christmas, come mid-January, you will see riders, I mean, in their casual wear. I mean, they've dropped all this thing, and you'll not see the operation going on. And you'll ask yourself, when did the operation end? And I mean, when did it start and when did it end? The point I'm making is that this is not the first time we are seeing such operations being mounted. To curb these traffic offences. I will remind you that we had a big operation here on speed governors, on seat belts. What happened? Where are they now? I mean, can you now go to these vehicles that long route vehicles, the buses? Do they still have speed governors? And what happened? So it is a big issue, and there are a combination of factors. But what my colleague talked about, corruption comes first. You would imagine that possibly the government does not care about these reports as they are coming out. Reports indicating that almost, I think the recent one showed that more than 1,000 border riders died in 9 months. More than 10,000 died. No, 1,000 died in 9 months. And more than 400 passengers also died in 9 months. Imagine innocent passengers who want to be, who are looking for a means of transport to one place to another, and they die. So you get a sense that possibly the authorities are not concerned about the people who are dying, but they will be much more concerned if an Ebola outbreak kills only 55 people. Then they will show you that they are very much concerned. Then they will run to the donors, and it will be a big issue when actually many people are dying in road accidents. So I'm saying, one, it's a matter of political will, because it all goes to the policymakers. Are they willing really to have? Because the laws are there. We have, well, there could be a need to amend the Traffic and Road Safety Act. There could be some provisions that need amendment. But I'm saying, even the laws that are in place today, the enforcement is poor. And it is poor because some people, some individuals benefit from the current situation. The people who actually buy these DMC vehicles, actually, let me tell you, the DMC vehicles that are on the roads are not for poor people. Some of them are not for poor people. But because they want to buy very many and spread them across and possibly get some money out of them, they're allowed and they do it. And that is why it takes me back to my perception as possibly someone is looking at it in the economic dividend that comes out of it. Someone looks at the tax that comes on these old vehicles, but does not think about what actually these vehicles will do when it is on the road. Someone is looking at what the borders are actually bringing in terms of fuel, because borders actually they bring tax in terms of fuel. They buy a lot of fuel. These borders, you see, if you do a census on borders in this country, they may be 3 or 4 times the cars we have in this country. So these borders are consuming fuel every day. Then you know the big chunk of what we buy on fuel also goes for taxes. So you cannot only look at taxes and you don't look at the lives of people that are being decimated in road accidents. So it's high time. I thank Dr. Charles Ayume for the report, and possibly I hope it is time our legislators think about their voters' lives better than looking at what the economic dividend comes with with what is happening with the vehicles, all the vehicles coming in, and the borders, and you cannot also take away the fact that the roads, the designs, like he said, the roads are narrow. Many accidents actually for borders in this city mainly happen when the border riders are fighting for space with the motor vehicles or the drivers of motor vehicles. So can we now change our design in the city, in the new city master plan? Can we change the design? If we want to accommodate borders as another means of transport in the city, how can we give them maybe special lanes for them, so that they do not always be on a collision course with vehicles? So I think it's a whole lot. You cannot work on only one thing in isolation. I talked about the issue of alcohol. People go on roads when they are drunk. You also address the issue of corruption. I don't know that one how it could be addressed, but then you also have to look at the issue of the people who are driving. Are they really mentally stable? Do they qualify to be on the road? Are they qualified drivers? Look at the system that churns out drivers, that gives out driving licenses. Do they go through a rigorous process to really ascertain that these people are really qualified to drive? We are talking about border riders dying in accidents. Whereas schools for these riders, where are they trained? A person gets a motorbike in the morning, at the evening, he's on the road looking for money. So it's a number of factors we must think about and address before we actually look at the statistics.
Thank you, Apollo. And Pascal, the report highlights the cost of treating and managing these accidents. It actually puts for a critical situation, it costs it at 3.68 million per day to manage a critical accident.
Only
one per day. And for those which require surgical and other advanced sort of attention, it goes to 13.9 million per day.
That's a huge
It tells you, and it accumulates it to at a cost of around 236 million that government spends in some of these, to deal with some of these accidents and crashes. Even as you give your way forward on this, what's your take on this kind of thing?
I think for me, the amount of money that is being spent on rather preventable accidents is wasteful. And because it is wasteful, because we are not addressing the issues at the very bare grassroots, at the very bare foundation. And some of them, we have attempted to talk about them. And if we address this, then we could be able to save. I think we have a problem in this country where we don't focus on prevention, we focus on curing a problem. And say, okay, he's now sick, let's treat him. But we need to look at preventive care in as far as preventing certain things from occurring. If we can halve these accidents, maybe as a country, we could set targets and say that by this time, can we halve the number of road accidents in terms of motorcycle accidents and other forms of accidents? And we must be deliberate about it. And you asked about, I would make a comment on way forward. For me, I think we need to set targets. We can benchmark international targets and say, as a country, by 2022, we can benchmark just like we have a vision 2040. That can we, I would rather that we have zero tolerance towards road accidents, so that zero tolerance means that we value the life of everybody when it comes to issues of road accidents. But also we could have set targets when it comes to the amount of response, the response time for which someone is delivered to a medical facility. Because the moment an ambulance arrives, then you begin first aid and whatever issues. By the time you arrive in the hospital, maybe you're out of danger, and we value human life to that level. So the moment we begin to do the things that we are supposed to do correctly as a country, and we must set high standards. I believe that if we set high standards and be deliberate about them on road safety, on responses to road carnages, we become deliberate and set standards. If we do not set the standards, while addressing, of course, these other issues that we talked about, corruption, and so many other underlying issues that we are talking about, the moment we are deliberate about that and say that by 2050, nobody should die of a road accident. And you see, in some countries, a road accident is breaking news. Someone has died of an accident. It should be breaking news. So that you are sure, if you are going somewhere, you're sure of coming back. This should occur on very rare. And for me, I like setting high standards. So, way forward is that we must take critical action. Since these road accidents are proving to be almost like #1 killers of our people, yet we must travel. The nature of human life is that man must move. It's nature that we must travel, we must move, we are social beings. And so traveling in and out of your places, wherever you are, is mandatory. And so because of that, we must address those gaps and make sure that we fix them one by one. And this has to come from the top leadership. It has to come from individuals that are charged the responsibility. If you're working in the government department, if you're working where, we must be deliberate about fixing these gaps. For example, if we're talking about the DMCs, I have noticed that nobody is buying new taxis in Kampala. Why is it so? Are they anticipating that they will be wiped away? So they are fearing that if we bought one, I could make losses. And so people are fearing to buy new. These taxis you see that enter Kampala are long route taxis, but the ones that use the northern bypass, the ones that use from Boyogerere maybe to the heart of the city and other places that come into Kampala are really very old taxis. And nobody seems to ask questions that what direction that should we take. For example, if it is true that we really don't need these matatus, let's agree and say we don't need them, but we give alternatives. So that we begin to provide alternatives which are safe and also timely, because you don't want to board the means of transport which is going to take you 2.5 hours to reach your place of. So we must address these issues one by one, so that we avoid this discriminative ways of traveling. That some individuals are very special, and today if I also wanted to go somewhere, I could actually just ask a DPC to give me a 99 and I'm behind it, and they are clearing way for me. I mean, these are the challenges that we have. So for me, fast forward, we need to be honest, put high benchmarks, and by high benchmarks, I mean we must put them very high. That we have zero tolerance to corruption, zero tolerance to accidents, and the response time maybe to the road highway accident, we must also put it about 3 minutes. In other countries, they put 3 minutes, like Netherlands. Call an ambulance or police, 3 minutes. You can be sure any part you are. You call in 3 minutes, they arrive. Thank you.
Thank you. And Apollo, I don't know, we find ourselves, especially for road safety, we find ourselves in a very peculiar situation where we are losing life, we are losing economy. And I was listening actually to the chairperson of the Parliamentary Forum on road safety. And he tabulated the cost of road crashes. Ruhunda, the fourth photo member of parliament. He tabulated it to cost 5 trillion, the cost of road crashes in Uganda. What's even as you conclude, what's how do you make sense of the situation?
No, I am happy that we can now quantify the losses into a currency we understand. And now we know that we are losing this, and we should also look at what we get, and then balance the two. But as a recommendation, I think I will pick one interesting issue my colleague raised. We should come up with a clear and safe means of transport that we have to adopt. In developed countries, we know that they decide that now on these highways we need buses or trams or train or what, and it works because somehow they are safe. And until we do that, because now you find a lot, like I said, even on highways, you find right from a bicycle, a boda, a small three-wheeler, everything is on that road. Tuk-tuks, then a bus, then a taxi, then a minibus, they are all on. So we have to define the safest means of transport that we can adopt, and then we implement it. I think it is a strategy that can work. If we decide that now on specific highways, we need these big carriers, the buses or what, and we stick to that. And also we also set a standard that a bus should be in this condition to be allowed on our roads. Possibly that can work, but then it takes me back to the issue of implementation. Let's also implement the regulations, the traffic and other laws that are in place today. Let's look at the standards of the drivers, the people who are allowed on our roads. Possibly that can work, but if we do not, if we still think of how much we can get in taxes that the drivers or the vehicle users spend on fuel, so we should allow every DMC to come and consume, then we lose it, because you've talked about the monies that now we spend on every victim, every case. That is far, I mean, a big amount to comprehend. And then the lives that are lost. Lives cannot be quantified in any terms. The Ugandans, many Ugandans have lost their lives on roads, and they cannot be recovered. These lives cannot be recovered. So I'm saying I'm happy that now it has come to the floor of Parliament. Possibly let's wait to see how they will respond again. Like I said in the other on the other topic, it depends on how government responds, and then we can start from there.
Thank you, Apollo, and I think we'll bring it to an end at this point. And mine is really to thank my panel here, Amuriat, Pascal. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
offering
inviting
us your time and your insights.
Thank you.
Apollo, Tusiime, thank you so much.
Yeah,
and,
it is a pleasure always
coming
here.
Send our regards to the Parliamentary Press Association. Tell them that we appreciate the work they do, and they should hold on there. And to you, our viewers, thank you so much for having been part of this discussion. And we can continue the conversation by putting our comments in the comment section, and for always being part of the other shows that are here at Civic Space TV. We want to thank you, and to the camera crew behind there, thank you so much. And we wish you all the best and see you next time. Thank you so much.